Hello everyone, and welcome. My name is Nathan. Some people call me Nate, and welcome to my channel. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you so much, and welcome. So a few weeks ago, Claude and I were over at Disney Springs, and it was when the Christmas merchandise was first launched at Disney World. And one of the things that I noticed was an ornament set that had 8 characters. There was Mickey, Minnie, Chip and Dale, Pluto, Goofy, and Donald and Daisy as hot chocolate mugs. They're not actually hot chocolate mugs, but they are just little tiny ornaments that look like hot chocolate mugs. And I thought it would be really fun to try to draw them. So I started thinking about how I wanted to go about the project, and all along I had been working on Me One Creative Christmas Cheer. And that is a new to me experience. I've created an online course, a little mini workshop based on the Grinch, and it is actually releasing on December 1st. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up, the link is in the description. And part of one of the lessons that I teach is all about using coffee in various ways to stain your paper, and different ways to go about it, and different ways and different looks. So to start, I used one of those techniques and prepped all of my pages. I think I did maybe like 6 pages or something, just to have a bunch, because I really didn't know what I was going to do other than that I wanted to try to create these hot cocoa mugs. So that's what you can see me doing here. I know that it's going super fast, but I break it all down, and I go way more into detail and do a lot more than just this sort of flat wash staining technique in the lesson. So make sure you check that out. So for the rest of the project, I just used watercolor pencils and watercolor. Usually I just sketch with a mechanical pencil with some HB lead, maybe erase some of the lines, but then leave them in my final project. But I have been playing a lot with these watercolor pencils, and I'm really loving the effect, especially on this coffee paper. I thought the first 2 that I would do would be Chip and Dale. So I just used my pencil to sketch in sort of the rough mug shape, and then add the character features to that. It's super simple. They are, the features fill up the mug, so you don't really even have to worry about the proportions as much. And they have those really cute, simple pie eyes, which are just great big ovals with a little slice taken out, and it works so well with these designs. So once I got my cups laid out, I decided on toppings, and these guys had little marshmallows based on kind of like their teeth. So Chip got 1 and Dale got 2. And then I went in and sort of just activated the watercolor pencil just to get it going and sort of give myself a foundation. I learned in the later characters to take that watercolor pencil, activate it, but then drag it into the areas that I wanted to be white. So like Mickey's face, their face is Mickey, anything that I wanted to be not bright white, but maybe like a tan. Because what happened is, in these ones, I moved the watercolor pencil more into the darker areas because I thought that made sense. But the way the coffee reacts to the water on the page almost lifts it too much and reveals too much of the white below. So getting that initial foundation of a little bit of color in the lightest areas, not the bright white areas, but just the lighter areas, made a lot more sense. And eventually I figured that out. I think cohesively, like as a group, it really didn't matter. It was just easier. I found it easier to do it that way. So then I just started working with the watercolor kind of from light to dark. I used a mixture of a brown and indigo to make the black areas or the super dark areas, the eyes and the mouth. And then I just went in and added the colors appropriately. And then the handles are actually kind of like a candy cane handle. So I used the watercolor pencils to draw in my candy cane stripes. I did the same thing. I activated it a little bit, then went back in with some red watercolor. And then what I found was really cool is to create white. Because we're using this coffee paper, you can just lift the coffee with your brush. So get a thirsty brush, get your brush pretty wet, paint the water where you want to lift it, and that's what you can kind of see me doing in the handle and then in the marshmallows. But just wet the paper and then dry your brush and soak the water back into your brush, and that will give you it'll reveal the white of the paper below, which is I thought was a super neat technique that I found just sort of playing with this coffee paper. And it worked really well in later characters when I added whipped cream to the top of the hot cocoa. And then again for Pluto's eyes, it worked so well. So I just kind of repeated the process. I went back in with my burnt umber for their fur. And then for the actual hot chocolate in the mug, I used a pretty concentrated version of Van Dyke Brown, just to give me that really deep brown color. And then again added the candy cane handle. I used a darker, more like a maroon red to do the sketch, and then I added a brighter red watercolor when I went back in. And then I also used that lifting technique for their teeth to kind of make them pop and give it a little bit of contrast. And then I added Mickey on the bottom. So you can see I did the sort of same basic mug shape, just a cylinder with a rounded bottom, and then added a handle and then started to work in Mickey's details. In the end, I don't know. Again, I think he goes well with the group of characters, but there was something about Mickey that I didn't love, but I still thought it was cute. And it's about the watercolor pencil. You can go super light and then go darker to kind of like finalize your sketch, and then all of that just disappears whenever you start activating it. And this is where I started to pull the watercolor into the areas that I wanted to be like a light, almost white color, or white in the context of the coffee paper. And speaking of white, whenever I went in with my brown indigo black mixture, I had to leave the space around his ears. You can see there I'm leaving the sort of the negative space, I guess, for the whipped cream. And I sort of lightly penciled that in, and then whenever I colored it, whenever I filled it with watercolor, I just left that space open. And then I'm going to come back later and lift the watercolor pencil pigment and the coffee off of the paper and create a like really neat whipped cream effect. It was really exciting how doing that lift creates another layer of contrast and interest and texture with these techniques. The overall look really with the coffee paper and the watercolor and the pencils is very textured and very there's a lot of granulation that happens, and there's the satisfying lifting technique. I'm adding a cherry on top, of course. But I just love this look. And to be honest, the more I play with this technique, the more effects I find, and just the more in love I am with it. The vintage retro vibe and texture, I can't get enough of it. And I probably will just take an entire art journal and just stain all of the pages and work in it and see what happens. It's just that good. And then I'm doing some more once I figured out that I could lift to white and still leave a little bit of that the water puddle feel to the white, and I just kept doing it. And you'll see in the close-ups at the end what I'm talking about. And then, add some coffee splatters and some watercolor splatters on there, and it's the best thing ever. So for the opposite side of the spread, I decided to do Minnie Mouse and then Pluto underneath. And I sort of struggled a little bit with how I wanted to lay it out, because they both had like a whipped cream or a chocolate topping. So I needed the height off the top of the mug. And I wanted to layer them, but I didn't want to cover too much of Pluto up with Minnie. And I really went back and forth a lot with my sketches, and I think I still changed it one more time. But that is the beauty of the watercolor pencil and sort of just sketching very lightly, that you can erase and kind of change as you go. And then Minnie has, instead of a bow, sort of a holly garnish topping with another little hidden Mickey holly berry there on the center. And then I kind of picked the angle for Pluto and just went for it. I added his handle just above his little snout, and then his toppings actually had some candy canes coming out, which I really didn't get to include as much as I wanted to. I added it in, and then I realized that I forgot to add Minnie's handle, and that sort of covered up the entire candy cane on the left. But I did get the one in the right, so it kind of looks like a candy cane straw, which is still fine, and it works well. And then Pluto's topping is like a chocolate frosting on top. Real quick, I wanted to go back and talk about the mini workshop that I put together and sort of why I did it. I have been following so many content creators in the online creative communities for so long, and really I just felt super inspired by them, and have for years wanted to create something online. And I went to college for photography, and I always thought about doing sort of like photography classes, but I mean that's so heavily saturated. And then I had always been sort of drawing and painting and playing. None of this is actually serious, but it's fun. Photography kind of turned into more of a job than a hobby, which is, I mean, it's fine. It's still fun, but it's just not the same. And then I had the amazing opportunity to share and teach for Art Journaling the Magic during one of two of the online workshops. And I had it was so much fun to do. And for me, there were so many personal challenges, just talking, and even doing this, I never really know what to say, and just talking in front of a group of people that you're not really in front of, that you can't see and you can't read the room, deciding what they might, what do you want to see, and how can I create a lesson that has valuable takeaways. So and that in itself was a learning experience, and it was so rewarding and so much fun that I just wanted to try my hand at creating something of my own, and something that I can call my own. So that's how I landed on creating this creative Christmas cheer course, Mean One, based on the Grinch. And I chose Christmas time because for me, it's one of the most, it's the most magical time of the year, and art is magic. And then combining those two, it just makes sense. And it also sort of lends its hand to be a little bit easier. And I thought that it was a good place for me to start. And I hope that everyone enjoys the content. And I keep repeating this, but really it's not about the projects and the lessons. It's just spreading creativity and in this case, the creative Christmas cheer. You know, if you get anything out of it, I hope that it's just some inspiration, ideas that you can take and put into your own projects. And, you know, maybe it's a seed planted for another project down the line where you think, oh, copy paper, you know, and apply that to however, you know, whatever you need. And, you know, it's those little, you know, sort of sparks of imagination, if you will, that I hope you take away from the course. And it was just, and you know, for me, just an opportunity to learn and create and then share it and sort of give back to the community in a way. So like I said before, that starts on December 1st. All the lessons become available, but you can enroll today, and I will include the link below if you're interested. And while I was talking about that, I completely messed up Minnie's left eye, all right, and ended up going in with a little bit of white gouache to sort of fix my problem. I had a little mishap with the black watercolor pencil, and yeah, well, I fixed it the best I could. I think it's okay. And then I just took a little bit of Shadow Violet from Daniel Smith and just gave them a little, it ended up looking like melted snow in the coffee, or like how it reacted with the stained coffee, but it was supposed to be shadows. Either way, I enjoy it, and it looks great. And I hope you have enjoyed following along with me and joining me creating these Disney ornament hot cocoa mug characters on our coffee paper. Just look at I added some splatters, and look at the texture and the effect that you get. Oh, I just love it. Anyway, check out Mean One, and I will see you next time. Take care.